All right, let's do this. Welcome. Thanks for joining us at the Film Files podcast. I'm Mike. This is Josh. That's Cameron. And let's go ahead and get into it. Today, we want to talk about film scores. It's something that's been on our mind lately, and I'm sure it's been on yours as well. Cameron, I want you to lead us into this. Let's just kick it off with a simple question. How has music in film enhanced your viewing experience?
Well, that's a great question, Mike.
That's why I asked it.
This popcorn is excellent, by the way.
Brought to you by Popcorn.
Yeah, got
All right, is it a bad thing to be eating popcorn into a mic when you're doing a podcast?
Probably.
Even if it's one about film?
Well, I mean, it's on topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, naturally, I think that having popcorn is going to be, well suited for this podcast.
Before we get started, can I bring up something that's starting to get to me? How many movie theaters out there are forbidden from serving Pepsi? They all have Coke, and don't get me wrong,
That
there's
is
nothing
true.
that's
true. I've never thought about it
than
before.
a Diet Coke or a regular Coke or half and half. If you want to go a little crazy, get cancer and cavities at the same
Right?
time. Go half and half, and with a large bucket of popcorn. There's nothing better than that for a movie. But I mean, Mountain Dew's our sponsor for today. Can you hear this? Oh yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, there's nothing better than that sound when it's green. Mm.
But anyways, that's a good point. I don't know why Coke. Maybe they've just had a good relationship with the theater industry up to this point. That would be interesting to.
I would imagine it's probably similar to a lot of restaurants in general, where they probably just offer better deals for them in terms of having, because obviously the movie theater, restaurants, and then they still have to buy the syrups from Coke.
There was a guy I knew way back in the day. Actually, I didn't know this guy at all. I heard an interview about this guy way back in the day who would go around to different restaurants and see if they offered, hey, would you like a Coke? Or what would you like, a Pepsi? And he was actually hired by Coke to track down people that offered a Coke but instead served Pepsi. And so he would report back to coca-cola which companies those were or which restaurants those were, and they would send a letter saying, hey, if you're serving Pepsi, you can't call it a Coke. We got a trademark on it. How about that?
Because everybody, especially down south, they say, do you want a Coke instead of a soda or
right.
pop?
That's where he would go. Just
Anyways.
go around eating in restaurants.
Yeah.
And that's everything to do with music in movies.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I mean, we all know this, that music is really important in movies. Having the right soundtrack can really make or break a film. And having the right audio mixing and things like that. Let me bring this back up, Cameron. Talk about this a little bit. How music really can influence us in a movie.
Well, I think it just makes all the difference. I mean, have you have you ever watched? There's some funny videos out there on YouTube of I don't know if you've seen the one with it's Luigi in the Mario Kart, and it has some dramatic music going on in the background while he throws the shell. We'll have to find it and play it. It's super hilarious. But I mean, the entire environment and mood of that scene was influenced by that song. But talking about actually movies, I mean, another video I once watched was the throne room scene, which we're going to talk a little bit about later, from Star Wars, when they're walking down the aisle and Leia gives them their medals and stuff, and the whole video just takes out the music and it's just silent and it's super awkward and it's just and then you hear random noises in the background, people scratching their face, or one guy farts in the background. It's just all the comedy, and then when R2's doing his little dance and he's cheering, it's just it's super awkward. Anyways, the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because the entire element of that scene was completely created and made possible because of the music that was in that scene. It just completely changes everything about it, everything that you're watching.
Well, and I'm sure this is going to be a loaded answer, but for you, do you prefer more of the classical music genre in a film, or are you more of the sing-song, sing-along type, where either it's contemporary like rock or hip-hop or your Disney sing-along songs? Which do you prefer?
That's so difficult, and it shouldn't be that difficult for me.
Especially if we've thought about this before the podcast.
I think for me, it just depends on the film and my mood at the time. like leading into this podcast, I was like super hardcore feeling nostalgic about a lot of the orchestral music that's used in films. I wasn't really listening to Disney sing-alongs getting ready for this podcast, but I think they have their place. They're used to enhance the environment of the film in different ways. So with like a sing-along, that's to keep the kids engaged, and that's to make it a fun little thing for the viewers. Yeah. Whereas like something with like a film score, those have their place where it's meant to really take things more seriously in the film and to add a lot of I guess diversity dynamic to the film. They can, like, with the music you can make it even more sad or even more happy just by having a super sad song or a really happy song.
So that even a moment where they take out the music, if it is a show that's supposed to have a lot of music in it, like let's say La La Land, for example,
right.
There's a moment where they're eating at the table and there's absolutely no music at all, and it just really pulls you into that really tense moment when you know that what's his face
Ryan
is about
Gosling.
to say something really, really dumb, and you are just like biting your cheek, just going, don't say it, and it's so tense because it's so quiet. And in the theater when we saw it, I mean, you could hear a pin drop. I don't know who's dropping pins because that's dangerous. PSA for today: don't drop pins in a movie theater.
Don't do it.
Or a concert
It's
hall.
dark.
I know people are wearing shoes typically, but don't do that. And you're just going right along with it, and then he says the dumb thing, and you hear the entire audience just, oh no.
So you bring up a good point. Like sometimes it's not just music; it can also be the lack of music that has a strong impact on the movie when you're watching it.
Sometimes the music, when there shouldn't really be music, ruins it. Some superhero movies are kind of like that. Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
I haven't seen it, so I can't say.
Come on, Mike.
So we're circling around a topic that I think is really interesting. So the question that I've had in my mind this whole time is, does having music in movies force viewers to feel certain emotions? Like, does that take away their interpretive skills in viewing movies? I don't know, because like like you guys said, there's a balance of silence and lack of music versus music, but I don't know, like that concern was brought up in film class when I was going to school. So I just don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Film class debates.
Yes.
I think it does. I mean, I haven't gone to film class, but I think for me personally, like, I would say it does have an influence on the viewer and how they interpret what they're watching. But it is a story, and I think that the storyteller should be able to dictate the environment and the mood of the scene.
Well, and there are so many other elements that are outside of the score that really dictate the emotions. Everything that's put around it, even down to the lighting, how the scene is lit, is going to give you a very specific mood that's
Right.
going to guide your emotions. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Part of the nuance of film. So is there supposed to be a place for music? Absolutely. There's supposed to be a film score.
Yeah, so you bring up another good point, and I'll try and be quick about it, but what's the ratio, right? Because you have all these elements that go into film, such as lighting, acting, directing, camera work, angles, set, prop, whatever it is. What I feel like when we talk about the weight of music in movies, it's really heavy. Like it's all, people only pay attention to like 80% of what I can't remember what the statistic is. I'll look it up. But I've heard a quote that's very common in the television and movie industry. It's like what the viewer sees and hears, like 80% of it is sound and music, and what their experience is driven by that. So I don't know, like, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think we should see a shift that depends less on music and sound, or do you think we should stay where we're at?
That's a good question, Josh, and we're actually going to have to pick that up into the next segment.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Catch you in a few.
Okay.